abandoned ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and another episode of Rebels Talk. And today we are going over the finale, the last couple episodes of Star Wars Rebels. And if you don't know what Rebels Talk is, it's our sub-series on the podcast where we go way back to Star Wars Rebels, as this is a rewatch podcast. Now, traditionally, we do a lot of normal podcast episodes as well, but Rebels Talk episodes specifically, you want to check the description in the bottom to see which episodes we're talking about, and then listen to the podcast. So today we're doing Season 1, Episodes 13 through 15, capping off Season 1 of Star Wars Rebels. This is Rebels Talk Part 5. Let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And joining me from far, far away, we got to get on the hologram for this one, because joining us is our esteemed co-host. You know him as Blake. There's a hologram right there. Welcome back, Blake.
Hello, hello. Always good to be here. Very exciting. Let's talk some Star Wars Rebels.
That's right.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Took me a while to find that button. Just like talking and trying to click around for it at the same time. Oh, I have one correction to make. You said the final episodes of Star Wars Rebels, but specifically Season 1. So don't fret, you didn't miss 3 seasons.
Right, yes, Season 1, that's right. You know, that's I mean, it's hard to believe actually that we're a quarter way through Star Wars Rebels already. I mean, this has been we've been blitzing
That's
it right
crazy,
through.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are the following seasons longer? I feel like they have to be.
Yeah, you know, I think they are. They're about 22 episodes a season. I think the first season was a bit shorter at 15 episodes. Okay. So, you know, we're dealing with a bit of a shorter story, but you know, here we are at the end of the first chapter in the Crew of the Ghost, and these are prominent characters that are going to be showing up in Ahsoka in you know, a couple weeks. I mean, we've seen live action versions of these characters show up in the trailers.
Wait, did you say couple weeks?
In a couple weeks. Yeah, that's right.
Holy smokes.
It's gone by quick.
Finish the show by then.
I know.
That's crazy.
The plan is to finish Rebels Talk by the start of Ahsoka, but we'll see. I mean, we might have some overlap, but you know, it is what it is. We're gonna do our best, but I think it is. You know, it's August. Well, we got the event right here in our Discord server, August 23rd. So you know, we're about you know,
Okay.
2 months ish away.
Yeah, a month and a half, I'd say.
Yeah.
We better crank these out then, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. We gotta
Might
start.
have to up our game.
Start-
Yeah, it's
start
2
going
episodes
hard.
a week or something.
Yeah.
The fans will love that.
Oh,
Tweet
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
How many episodes a week should we do?
Yeah.
2?
Two.
8? 15?
20.
That's just the whole show in like 1 week.
Oh, I know. It's unreal. I mean, you know, and actually, you know, before we dive right in, you know, again, for those of you who are joining us for the first time on Star Wars Escape Pod, I know currently we'll talk about a bit more in just a moment here. We are running a giveaway, so you know, a lot of people might be tuning into the podcast for the first time. So you know, I'm your host Josh, and you know, our co-host Blake right here. It's Rebels Talk. You know, as I mentioned before, our Rebels after show leading up to Ahsoka. And, other than that, I mean, it's really just a podcast that we'd love to chat about Star Wars. We've got book reviews, video game reviews. We've done what happened, catch ups on characters, in-depth lore discussions, you name it. We've even done commentary tracks, done discussions about the deleted scenes for all the trilogies. It's been fun. It's been a good time, and we've been doing it since 2019. So, it's
that's crazy to think about, man. Oh my gosh,
it's flown by. Yeah,
we've been doing this podcast longer than high school.
Well, I mean, we're getting there. I mean, it was like August 31st, I think it was, 2019. So end of 2019, a couple months in there, 2020, 1, 2, 3. So, I mean, yeah, I guess we're kind of coming on to that 5-year mark eventually, but not far off. Not far
How long
off.
were you in high school for? High school's 3 years.
High school? Oh man, I went to a high school which was 5 years.
Middle school?
You go from grade 8 to 12 in my high school.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So, I think generally it's just 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, I think it
middle school
depends on the region you're from. Yeah, I guess it could be looked at that way, but no.
Well, you know what? It was 5 for me too. I had to repeat 2 years.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding. I made that up. Wanted to fit in.
Fair enough. Yeah. So welcome to Star Wars Escape Pod. Anyone who's new, and yes, you heard that right.
And also welcome to all the new people who are following on YouTube, because I saw there's a huge jump in subscribers. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people tuning in now, and thanks to all of you guys who have been following us on the Twitter feed using the handle at SW Escape Podcast. And, the Instagram account as well, finding us on YouTube. The handle is the same across the board, and you can find it all in the description below. And we are running a giveaway. So for those of you who don't know, look for that on our Discord server or on the socials. And, there's a variety of ways that you can enter to win a Star Wars Retro Series Orbit Key. And we have a good friend of ours at Orbit Key who's kindly hooked us up with this giveaway. So huge thanks to Kirk and to Orbit Key as well for providing this opportunity. And we hope Orbit Key actually gets some attention from this as well. But they're super cool. I mean, literally just my own opinion here about Orbit Key is I'm not getting rips and pokey things in my pocket when I put my keys away in my pocket. So. And to have them all stashed in a neat little Star Wars kind of, piece of memorabilia is even better, right? I mean, you've got one too, right, Blake?
I do, yeah. I have the Mandalorian one. It's a nice brown leather color. I like it quite a lot. And that's because, by the way, it is actual leather. It's nicely finished. It's engraved. People are always actually asking me about it all the time because I love, flipping it out whenever I'm going to, get into the car or unlock the door. Like, what is that thing? Like, well, this is my Orbit Key organizer. Let me show you a link. And then I'll ask for their phone and type it in for them and add to basket. It's a whole ordeal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, if you see anything about Star Wars Escape Pod, loves Orbit Key giveaway, we just throw your name in the hat. I mean, you got nothing to lose. We're not going to be sending you newsletters or anything like that. It's just your free chances. There's 8 ways to enter. All you got to do is either join the Discord server, follow us on the Twitter feed, send out the automated or the pre-written tweet that's kind of good to go. You just hit a button, or you can even if you do a few of those things, you can choose what your favorite retro Orbit Key is, because the new retro series, there's 4 different designs. There's a Death Star, X-Wing, TIE Fighter, and Millennium Falcon. You can visit us on the YouTube page, the Instagram, visit Orbit Key on Facebook. And if you do everything in that list, you get a free entry after that, which brands you as a Jedi Master. So, 8 ways to enter. Can't go wrong with that. And we've got 656 total entries at the moment. And 22 days left. So get your name in the hat, because you never know. That time's going to fly by. And then, hopefully the next thing you're winning a free Orbit Key. So just let us know.
And remember.
You want this, don't you?
Yes, you
There
do.
we go.
Yes, you do. Yeah, so it's all in good fun, and we're super thrilled that Orbit-Key's been and Kirk has been so generous with allowing us to do all this stuff, and so yeah, it's been fun. So keep tuned into the podcast for the news on the winner, and we're going to be blasting the name out across our socials as well. So that we grab your attention. Also, keep an eye on your email. So whatever email you use to sign up for the giveaway, make sure it's not a throwaway burner email, because that's the only way we can reach you. So make sure you use an email that you still have access to in 22 days, and then you can delete whatever burner email it is. Just make sure you can log into it in 22 days to check and see if you won. So that's all I have to say on that. So thank you to all our entries, and we'll transition over here to Star Wars Rebels Season 1, Episode 13, Call to Action. All right, this episode is directed by Stuart Lee. Woo! Stuart Lee, and written by executive producer Greg Wiseman and Simon Kinberg. It was released on WatchDisneyXD.com and the Watch Disney XD app on February 2nd, 2015, and it premiered on Disney XD on February 19th. February 9th. Yes, thank you. Guest stars David Shaughnessy, Brett Spiner, and Steven Stanton. The synopsis reads, or the summary, summary reads, Grand Moff Tarkin visits Lothal to deal with the rebels. In light of discovering that Travis is actually an Imperial spy, the rebels debate broadcasting a message to the nearby star systems about their cause. Ezra adamantly supports the idea since his parents had broadcast secret messages from their basement for years. Kanan decides to invade the main Imperial communications tower on Lothal. The rebels think that they have the element of surprise, but they do not take into account the arrival of Tarkin, who has deduced that they will strike. The Inquisitor and Callus are sent out to capture Kanan alive to earn back Tarkin's trust, and when the Imperial forces attack the group at the tower, Kanan instructs his team to leave him and thus is captured. The team is able to have Ezra send the message of hope, urging those living under oppression of the Empire to fight before Tarkin orders the tower to be destroyed, ending their broadcast. Tarkin comes in swinging.
Twist.
Yeah,
man.
I mean,
they're gonna use our stuff, blow it up.
Yeah, and like this, I mean, chronologically, the only big kind of rebellion movement that's happened before this has all been really under the rug, as we've kind of come to know from Andor, right? So, to get Ezra broadcasting like kind of a nearby star systems sort of galaxy sector related rebellion message is kind of a big deal, because like not a lot of people have done that yet, right?
No, this is very early on, so I think this is a point where people are really unsure if the rebels that are fighting against the Empire are actually fighting for liberty, or if they're just kind of terrorists blowing stuff up and causing havoc.
Right.
So this was really their first chance to like get a message out there, try to explain what they're doing.
Right, exactly.
Because they might not even realize that at least specifically this rebel cell hasn't actually killed anybody, including stormtroopers. They just done everyone.
Yeah. I actually have a bit of an audio bite here, which is the message that Ezra sends, if you want to take a quick listen to it. Here we go.
Let's do it.
We have a problem. Explain. It appears the insurgents have gained control of the tower's transmitter.
We have been called criminals, but we are not. We are rebels, fighting for the people.
Fighting for you. I'm not that old, but I remember a time when things were better on Lothal.
Maybe not great, but never like this. See what the Empire has done to your lives, your families, and your freedom? It's only gonna get worse. Unless we stand up and fight back. It won't be easy. There'll be loss and sacrifice, but we can't back down just because we're afraid. That's when we need to stand the tallest.
That's what my parents taught me. That's what my new family helped me remember. Stand up together.
Because that's when we're strongest.
As one.
know what it takes to win a war, but I do.
All right, yeah, that was kind of a crazy ending to the episode too, with Tarkin like kind of, battle scars from the Clone Wars, kind of saying like, you don't know what it takes to win a battle, but I do. I'm like, dang, this guy means business.
He's not joking around. He's gonna do what he has to.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he actually was in the Clone Wars, so he has done it before.
Yeah, exactly. And he's always been a very realist sort of, guy, right? Like he's not one to waste his efforts. And we really enjoyed the Tarkin book when that came out, and really kind of sheds light on his intuition and his character. And I think the way he's portrayed in pretty much any show across the board, whether it be Bad Batch or Rebels or Clone Wars, it's always awesome. Like, the Stephen Stanley who does the voice, he's fantastic. So.
Yep, and I always liked that book. I know that's what I'm trying to remember the author now, but this was the book that I think put us on the radar for him.
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
Sorry, who is this again?
I'm trying to remember the author, but I remember he's one of the more prominent Star Wars authors.
Yeah.
Tarkin.
Was it James Luceno?
I think that is him. Yes.
He was the one who wrote the Darth Plagueis book.
I don't do it wrong.
Yeah, it's James Luceno.
Right. Yeah, it is. Yep. James Luceno. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yes, it's been so long now.
Yeah.
So we were really excited because this was the first book I think he wrote in the new canon. And we had previously really enjoyed the book you just mentioned, which was the Darth Plagueis novel.
Yeah, exactly. The Darth Plagueis novel was really nice, and Tarkin was awesome. I remember Rogue One Catalyst was also really good. He's written a number of solid Star Wars novels. So anyone who likes the character of Tarkin, go check out Tarkin. The book. And yeah, it's a good one. But I mean, kind of like the events that transpire at the end of this episode is really sort of like the big thing we're talking about. Tarkin describes the rebel cell situation as well, his fear that the unity could create a larger problem. So he saw this kind of like in advance, the possibility that this rebellion could be an issue. He didn't look at it as like this squabbling group of people that were just able to be dealt with in a manner of time and limited resources. Like, he really does see a lot of potential with this group of people that is fighting back.
Yeah, I think you could see that it could very easily become a rallying call for more people to join and the rebellion to grow and become an actual formidable foe to the Empire, which ironically is exactly what happens. He seemed to be the only one to have the foresight to see that happening.
Yeah, exactly. The spike, which is what the rebels used to hack the broadcasting tower at the time when the show came out, was actually new to Star Wars, and was later brought into the Clone Wars season 7 when there was a story arc where I think it was Ahsoka or something that used the spike. But can you remember a different time in which the spike?
This is the first canon thing, so it's actually originally from the KOTOR games.
Gotcha. Okay, so the spike then is new to canon, I guess, with Star Wars Rebels, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and the first time it was in a show, it was kind of used as a gimmick in games. So like if you're trying to hack a computer and your computer skill was too low, you could use a number of computer spikes to bypass it, and you had to go and like collect spikes instead.
Interesting. So did they look like they do in the Rebels show?
You never really saw them. Like, you didn't physically use them in the game. They just had like a picture icon from the menu.
Right.
And it looks more like a computer chip, is what I'm looking at here, as opposed to an actual bike-shaped object. Yeah. Which does make more sense, because in the show you see where normally a droid would kind of like connect that port to the computer.
Yeah.
That you insert the spike there, and then it kind of hacks its way through, which makes more sense, and honestly is kind of cool.
I'm just looking at this now, but back in the day, there was a limited run Knights of the Old Republic Premium and Master Edition. Oh, sorry, actually, this is a more recent thing from limited run games when it relaunched on the Switch and PC. And there was a bunch of pre-orders that began. You know, the whole game came in like a nice box set with like a bunch of exclusives that came with it, including a little tiny Ebon Hawk metal pin, and you know, there was a certificate of authenticity, a light side, dark side commemorative coin, as well as a USB flash drive, which is called a Security Spike USB flash drive, fully functional, and it actually looks like the Spike does from the game. It's pretty cool, actually. So I guess, yeah, I'm just looking it up now. I was like, dang, that
Where's that link? Is that just on Google?
Yeah, I just looked up KOTOR Spike, and then, you know, it just kind of came up in the results. And I'll send a picture here in our chat. But that's a good point. I mean, I've never actually finished KOTOR. I never finished KOTOR. KOTOR at the time when it came out, I don't know. I just didn't have the patience to get through the game. And I still have a thing with RPG sort of MMO style games, even if it's not MMO, like just that slow kind of hit a key and watch your guy just attack, you know, using that method, like
fighting.
Yeah, it's not really my
dated
thing. Yeah, it's pretty dated, and I don't know. Anyone who plays Baldur's Gate is probably yelling at me right now, but
or honestly, just Pokemon.
Right.
Pokemon has the same mechanics.
Right. Yeah, that's another game. Honestly, like I've wanted and tried to get into it. I've played them on emulators. I played them back in the day. Like I just could not get into it for some reason.
You know, the trick for me to do now, playing those games, is to play them with like a speed enhancer. So the animations are faster. So it's a lot like your attacks it's more or less just like attack, and you're done. Instead of wait, like hit the button and then you wait and your guy goes and the other guy goes and then there's an animation and then you know it takes forever. Speed it up. I don't got time for that anymore.
Yeah, I don't have the patience for that anymore. So
nice part about emulators.
Yeah, the sacrifice for something greater speech by Kanan was also a foreshadow, because he learns to he's learning with Ezra as he goes along, as his master, right? Because Ezra's learning from Kanan, but Kanan's also rediscovering how to be a Jedi by teaching Ezra what he knows, and what he knows is pretty much Padawan level stuff. Like he was, we saw him in the Bad Batch premiere as a kid, you know, running away from the clones. And anyone who read the Kanan comic books, which were the original canon story of that tale, slightly depicted a little differently, but he's a young guy. He's not exactly Anakin episode 2 level Padawan age. Like he's much younger than that. So what he knows is quite limited, and I think anything he has pulled off with the Force in this show is literally a result of him more recently kind of practicing again in his older age, right?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he wouldn't have had really any experience other than just like really the basics, you would think. So the fact that he had that and was able to, I'm not sure how long the time was, like from when they first faced the Inquisitor to when, I guess we're not that far yet. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. Tarkin, I already mentioned it. You don't know what it takes to win a war, but I do. I mean, I just love how that episode ends, you know, with that quote, and that's pretty much all I got for this episode. But anything you want to bring up before we move on here?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I will say that Tarkin is definitely a man of some good one-liners.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You may fire when ready.
You may fire when ready. Yeah. Season 1, episode 50. Oh, sorry. Season 1, episode 14, Rebel Resolve. This episode was directed by Justin Ridge, written by Charles Murray and Henry Gilroy, released on WatchDisneyXD.com and the Watch Disney XD app on February 16th, 2015, and premiered on Disney XD on February 23rd. Guest stars Keith Zarabacha, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Stephen Stanton, as well as Liam O'Brien. After failing to find where Kanan is being detained, Hera is urged by Fulcrum to put the crew of the Ghost into hiding. Against Hera's orders to leave Kanan, Ezra devises a plan to rescue him. He strikes a deal with Vizago for an unspecified favor in the future, and learns that due to the destruction of the Imperial Communications Tower, the Empire is forced to send all its messages via courier droids. Meanwhile, Kanan is brought aboard Tarkin's ship, where he is tortured by the Inquisitor as the Empire hopes to gain more information about the rebels. The crew of the Ghost substitute a disguised chopper for an Imperial courier droid so that he can access the Empire's data on Kanan, eventually learning that Tarkin plans to transfer Kanan to the prison on Mustafar, where, according to Hera, Jedi go to die. So this was interesting. Ezra reveals Kanan is a Jedi to Vizago at the beginning of this episode, and also Force lifts a crate right in front of him, and I was like, dude, like, I mean, like, I don't know about you, but I just thought that little section of the episode was just a little, like, out of place. I don't know, like, is that how
so?
I don't know, like, I mean, so Vizago just kind of laughs, right? Like, Ezra's like, Kanan's a Jedi and so am I, or whatever he says, and then Vizago just doesn't,
like, yeah, right.
Yeah, he just doesn't believe him, right? And then he starts to, like, force lift the crate, and he, like, puts it over his head, and then he kind of drops it in front of him, and there was just kind of like I guess I don't know, I guess I was just expecting the reaction to just be a little different and like not so I don't know,
cartoony.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's an animation.
It is a cartoon.
Yeah, it is an animation show, but
like, what's the issue? Like, that the guy laughed in his face, or that Ezra like tried to crush him with a crate?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, like, I think for me, it was just sort of the cheesiness of the moment, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, it just, to me, it just didn't really work, but I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I question if it was even the right decision. Like, that guy's pretty scummy. Would you really trust him to keep a secret like that?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, is that really your only...
Does Jedi have...
Say again?
I was gonna say, because I feel like Jedi have a massive bounty on their heads.
Yeah,
and that guy's all about the money.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. To me, it just the whole like Vizago's our only hope just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I don't know, man. Like, there was, yeah. Here, I got another audio bite. Let's just take a quick listen.
Because Kanan is a Jedi.
Kanan, a Jedi? You're funny, kid. That scoundrel couldn't be a Jedi any more than you could.
So is Kanan.
So what does this mean for Vizago?
It means you...
I don't know, just the way he kind of responds to that situation, I just wasn't really buying it. You know what I mean? He like stands out of the crate for the longest time until it's about to drop on his face, and then he kind of dives out of the way, and he's like,
"So you are a Jedi?"
Like, dude, like, I don't know. The whole thing was just kind of a little strange to me, but also the fact that, like you said, like, why would he reveal that kind of confidence, information to a scumbag, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I have more of an issue with that, I think, as opposed to, like, the interaction is definitely cartoony.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's a cartoon.
Yeah. Was this the first episode that we had a good look at Chopper's jet engine on the bottom, or have we seen that before? I don't know. I couldn't remember.
Good question. Honestly, it's tricky for me because I watched these and then I rewatched them and then I rewatched them again all within 2 weeks. So I'm not sure of their order at this point.
To me, when I saw him flying around with his jet engine, I was like, dang, like, that's such a cool shot. Like, the way that he kind of
like
just
a booster,
he like flies into the ghost, and like they kind of pick him up like as he's as he's flying. I don't know. It was just cool. It was just really kind of neat, to see this rust bucket of an astromech droid have something that's like insanely cool that like no other astromech droid has, right?
Well, I'm wondering because like R2 has the rockets out of his legs.
Yeah, he's got the rockets. Some of the astromechs have these rockets, right? But I don't know, like it's like Chopper went into like supersonic mode. He was like boom, and he just like shoots, I was like, whoa, like that's awesome. Big huge thruster engine on the bottom like that, like mad.
Do you think there's an astromech out there with hyperspace capabilities?
Oh man, I don't know, but if I would assume anyone has that kind of capabilities, I would give it to maybe BT-1, that crazy astromech droid that has like those massive cannons. Somehow it all fits in there, right? From the Dr. Aphra comics. Like I don't even know how that
you're talking about.
Yeah, I know it's a comic and stuff, but like seriously, like how do those guns fit in there? Like, is it like nanotechnology from the Iron Man suit? It
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I wonder now, maybe there's like like Star Wars space version of AAA. So like you break down somewhere in an astromech, just like rockets out across the galaxy to find you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought this episode was kind of interesting that it kind of introduced the courier droid message sending sort of idea. I know that the High Republic Phase 2 is actually doing that right now, like because the communications to people exploring the Outer Rim are actually not really set in stone. They're not really solid, right? Like they can't communicate properly across that distance. So they're using droids to carry messages and act like signal beacons, right? I'm sort of blabbing now because I actually haven't personally read any of these novels myself from Phase 2 yet, but I will get around to it. It's just, this is something that I read on StarWars.com, and it's just kind of been something that they talked about in the High Republic show, I think, at one point. But
that's kind of neat. I guess the idea is they don't have the infrastructure set up, so they're using droids to carry courier message everywhere.
Exactly, yeah. So it's just an interesting kind of connection to make there, I guess, just drawing a line between how things were done kind of way back when communication over standard methods and procedures kind of wasn't falling into place or wasn't really, the infrastructure wasn't there. The droids, were a fallback, right? And so I thought it was very kind of natural and interesting that even though that piece of lore was only recently established, that Star Wars Rebels kind of makes it seem like it's like a natural sort of backup plan is to use astromech droids to kind of act as message couriers, right?
Well, who else?
Pretty cool.
Who else did that? Princess Leia in the first 15 minutes of the first movie.
Right. I think that was that I've always looked at as like kind of a discreet way of slipping someone a note, though, because I feel like, the actual transmission of, her asking Obi-Wan for help was too risky because, the Star Destroyer was monitoring all of those, any broadcasts, right? Because they were able to tell that there was a signal that was beamed to that ship. So any kind of outgoing communications would have been intercepted. Yeah. So I always thought that the whole R2 to Obi-Wan thing was kind of literally like here's the physical plans disc, but then also here's a message to go with it, and no one can hack something that's not being broadcasted, right? So it's that's the way I always looked at it. But I thought like, the rotation of information going from the ground to the ships up top and whatever, relying on these little courier droids to kind of do that. It's kind of risky, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense because, for hundreds of years, this was just the way of doing that for people that were in far reaches of outer space that didn't have the technology to just, drum up a hologram to someone in the inner rim, right? So.
Yep, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And the end of this,
how it's all threaded together now. It's cool how it feels really cohesive like that.
Right? Between, yeah, it does.
These books now and Rebels and
feels very natural. Yeah. The end of this episode, it was kind of a funny moment. It always takes me by surprise still, but I always have a good laugh when Chopper boots that astromech droid, that Imperial astromech droid, who is quite friendly, by the way. just boots him out of the ghost and sends him dying into the clouds.
Oh my gosh! You know what this actually reminds me of? That whole scene when we were playing Edge of the Empire, and every time we do a mission, we try to collect another pet, like an extra NPC to fight with us, and then you'd come up with some random reason why they would like die or explode or whatever. In this case, Chopper just like pushes him out the door.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's
like a GM
so
being
good.
like, nope.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a funny little. I mean, they make him out to be this like grumpy old man in a droid form, right? And it's just like, nope, that's my. He's like George. Like, yeah, maybe we should adopt this droid.
Oh my
we'll bring him into the family, and then Chopper's like, nope.
Oh my gosh! Could you imagine if that was the thing the whole time? Chopper just based on George.
Yeah.
Just real grumpy.
Dude, that would be actually like kind of amazing, actually. Oh man, maybe Dave's voice for Chopper is his impression of George Lucas.
Oh my gosh! Don't tell George that.
Yeah, maybe not. I wonder if George listens to this podcast.
Pretty sure he does.
Yeah, pretty sure. Because what else?
Pretty sure,
right? Yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Because I believe you thought the droid died, but I swear there's a scene right at the end of the episode.
There is.
Where you see him like loft cat on his head or something.
He gets up and he's surrounded by loth cats. Yeah, I thought that was kind of like, okay, really? Like, did he really survive that fall? Like, there's no freaking way, dude. No freaking way.
Just a crumpled trash can.
Yeah, they should have just left him a smoking pile of garbage. Like, that would have added to the joke, right? But I don't know.
That's true. Well, it's Disney XD, so nobody can be harmed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Droids or otherwise.
Right.
That being said, I don't know if we ever see him again. So is he just lost forever in the fields?
Yeah, he's just lost. Yeah, he's just lost forever in the fields. I mean, I don't. He was just
run out of power.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't think he pops up again. I think he was just meant to be kind of a temporary character for the story, but it is what it is. You got anything you want to add to this episode, or should we move on to the last one here?
Just that I can't remember what Vizago's the deal was. Vizago has to get a favor from Kanan later. And I'm sure that's going to be a story point later on. I can't remember what it is, so I'm actually quite curious. This isn't me asking for an answer, but I'm actually somewhat excited to figure that out.
I think it's a season 2 thing, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, you're right. It is.
That seems likely. It's definitely not this season.
Right. No, definitely not this season. Yeah, because we only got one more episode. So, which is season 1, episode 15, Fire Across the Galaxy. So this episode was written by Simon Kinberg and directed by Dave Filoni. Premiered on Disney XD March 2nd, 2015. Guest stars Phil Lamar, Ashley Eckstein, and Steven Stanton. What an episode this was. The crew of the Ghost sees an Imperial transport and use the TIE fighter that Zeb and Ezra had previously stolen to infiltrate and disable Tarkin's Star Destroyer in the Mustafar system. Ezra frees Kanan using the duct system, while Hera, Sabine, and Zeb attempt to secure an escape route. Ambushed in the engine room, Ezra and Kanan face the Inquisitor in a lightsaber duel, which was a fantastic duel, by the way, during which Ezra falls and is believed dead by Kanan, temporarily. Abandoning his fear of losing Ezra in that effort, Kanan succeeds in destroying the Inquisitor's lightsaber and ruptures the ship's engine, into which defeated the Inquisitor casts himself into the fires of death, into the fires of Mount Doom. Ezra reveals himself to be alive and to have gotten a scar during the battle with the Inquisitor, and escapes with Kanan. Both groups successfully emerge from the Doom Destroyer with stolen TIE fighters. And Chopper arrives in the stolen transport alongside a number of other ships. They all successfully escape into hyperspace, and the rebels are greeted by Senator Organa and Fulcrum, the later whom is revealed to be Ahsoka Tano, who tells the group that they are just one cell out of many working to a larger rebellion. On Lothal, Tarkin introduces Agent Kallus to Darth Vader, who has been selected by Emperor Palpatine to hunt the rebels in the Inquisitor's place, seeing as the Grand Inquisitor is now defeated. So, what did you think of this episode?
As you said, like the duel is super cool. They definitely did a good job, like introducing Vader and kind of starting to move the story forward. There's a couple things that are also a bit of an annoyance to me, and we brought this up a few times in season 1, because like to me of the Rebels series, like this was the biggest mistake, and that was having the Grand Inquisitor being the first Inquisitor. Because Kanan, as we discussed earlier this episode, he wasn't trained any more than a Padawan, and then he spent like a few weeks training, like since he last fought the Inquisitor, and then he's able to beat the Grand Inquisitor, who was one of the Temple Guards, so he should have one of the best fighters to begin with, and then becomes the leader of the Inquisitors. It's a bit of a stretch. Like, to me, you want to lead up to that guy, not start with him and then take a step down. I mean, like other than like Vader, but as we'll get into that, that's not a consistent villain. So, to me, that's a huge caveat for like this part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode was interesting. It makes a reference to in Rebels Talk Part 1 we watched the 4 Rebels animated shorts that prelude the show, and in one of them Sabine attacks a TIE fighter outpost somewhere on Lothal, and it's called The Artist. And a bunch of stormtroopers in this episode at the beginning, when Sabine is there at that same place that we saw in the short, says the artist is back, and the stormtroopers, they recognize Sabine from that moment that happens before season 1, and I just thought it was funny, when they jack an Imperial TIE transport from that place. I just thought it was hilarious that they actually kind of went back to that little short and not made it completely useless. So that's part of the reason why we actually covered that stuff in the first episode of Rebels Talk. It was a reference to an episode later. Yeah,
that's really funny, because even though we watched that, I still didn't get it.
Like you just still didn't. Oh, you couldn't remember? Am I jogging your memory and me like telling you this stuff?
Now that you mentioned it, because I forgot that was even a thing. Because like I know in the episode they're like, "Oh, she's back," but I assumed it was from an earlier episode, not from the short to introduce the characters.
Yeah. So I thought that was a cool little way to kick off the season 1 finale. Ezra cutting a hole in the ship blast door. He touches the edge when he kind of climbs through the hole, and it's hot. So he kind of like flicks his hand, and you hear the little sound. And I was really surprised. I was like, this is so smart, because we've never seen that before. Like, the Jedi just kind of
always fine.
They're always like cutting a hole, and they're always just hopping through it as if it's not going to be extremely hot, if they touch the sides or step on the hole.
Molten metal.
Right. Yeah. And I was like, that is so well thought of, for a scene of like a young Jedi dealing with a lightsaber for the first time, cutting a hole through a big metal door. Like, this is actually such a great way to just kind of throw in that little hint of consequence for touching a hot piece of metal. I was like, this is never put in the Star Wars movies.
I almost wonder if they should have went a step farther and shown like, wave his hand around.
Kid,
a little bit subtle.
Kid, what have you done? I got a burn now on my paw.
Or puts his hand down, and just like his hand just like pushes into the metal because it's still soft, like stuck on the wall, burning him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the lightsaber fight is a highlight for this episode for the whole season. I would say it's the best one, of course.
It was really well done. I'd say there's probably like at least one good lightsaber fight per season. So
yeah,
there's definitely going to be at least 4.
Yeah, and I feel like with Clone Wars, we're so accustomed to seeing lightsabers all the time and lightsaber fights all the time that moving into Star Wars Rebels, again, I hate to be a broken record when I say that, I was originally, when the show came out, I was quite bitter about it. But I mean, here we are. And, looking back now, it's fine, but like it is one of those things. Like it's like a hard left turn watching Clone Wars and going into Star Wars Rebels with the expectation that even though there's Jedi in this show, I think the show being designed for a younger audience doesn't help. But really, it's just a time period where there isn't a lot of lightsaber duels going on anymore. And I think as a viewer, if that's what excites you about the Clone Wars, that's certainly not an element that comes up a lot in Star Wars Rebels. So for me, I found a lot of Rebels season 1 the first time around. I thought it was actually a bit more dull than I look at it now.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a good point because you're mostly fighting people with blasters in the show because
right.
Other than Vader, Inquisitors, and the 3 Jedi, that's really all there is for lightsaber users.
And and as far as like cool factor goes, I mean, lightsaber to a kid, like lightsaber is like the coolest thing that comes out of a Star Wars show. So like it's
true. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, it's it's a lightsaber. Like it's the coolest thing that's ever been invented for any movie ever. And it's like, I don't know. To me, when the show came out, I wasn't that young, but like when the show came out, I was I guess in a state of constant criticism. I was like, man, I missed the lightsaber duels. Like, what the heck is this? And
where's Anakin?
Yeah,
where's Darth Maul?
I mean, yeah, it's
I'd have to wait long for that.
Just one of those things, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious. Anyone listening, like, what did you think about Star Wars Rebels Season 1? Let us know. I'm curious to hear if anyone actually had any similar feelings, towards this whole stark difference with way less lightsaber action going on. The action in general is nothing compared to the Clone Wars, at least in my opinion. But I'm just kind of curious, like, who out there actually feels the same, because I feel like
or the opposite.
Yeah, or the opposite.
If you disagree.
Yeah,
actually,
maybe.
no, never mind. We don't. If you disagree, just don't bother. We don't want to hear it. We want an echo chamber. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, like, I am curious though.
Agreements or disagreements.
Genuinely curious. Just shoot us a tweet. Just tag us and be like, "Yo, latest Star Wars Rebels episode. Your opinions suck."
Hashtag Josh, you're wrong.
Yeah, hashtag Josh, you're wrong. And then actually, you may want to explain, why we're wrong. But I'm just kind of curious. I'm just kind of curious. Like, did anyone feel similar about this? Is it just me? Like, where are we?
Oh
at?
my gosh! I just realized that I've never realized before, and now I have to talk about it right at this very moment.
What's that?
Pretty sure there's a Disney show called Blake and Josh.
It's Drake and Josh.
Oh, so close.
But that is close.
I don't hear. Well, I'm like, I've never bothered saying my own name and your name together like that.
It's like, oh man, people figured it out.
It's pretty funny.
Oh, jeez. All right. Yeah. So
that was our show. We were secretly on Disney's Blake and Josh.
That was what we were doing before we started doing a Star Wars podcast. That's right, everybody.
That's right.
Yeah. Tarkin. Anyways, yeah. So we've seen it a few times now, but the weakness of the Inquisitor's lightsaber is always the spinning hilt. Even Darth Maul's saber staff is cut in half in The Phantom Menace. I feel like there's just a bad track record for anyone with a double-bladed or spinny lightsaber. I feel like that's just not a good way to duel. You know what I mean?
No, that does make sense because you have that big weak spot where the two shafts meet, right?
Yeah.
I think there is at least one saber where the hilt is actually made out of like cartosis, so it can't be broken by other lightsabers.
Well, I know the dark saber is probably made of. Well, the dark saber is made of Beskar, right? Like the hilt is made of Beskar. So I guess
is it actually?
I would only imagine it is. Yeah.
But how did it get all mushed?
Oh, dude, yeah, you just blew my mind. Yeah. What the heck?
Because at the end of Mandalorian season 3.
Okay, well, maybe. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's Beskar versus Beskar. Maybe that's because he's got a Beskar suit, right?
That's true.
So
that's true.
I don't know. But
Maybe that's why he's able to crush it.
yeah, I'm kind of curious about that though, and I haven't looked that up in a while. But I always thought that the dark saber's hilt was made of Beskar. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, it's one of those things. I just thought like, okay, we've seen it a few times now. We've seen well, throughout the series, I think we'll see it again. And I feel like it's just something we've seen before. I think in Obi-Wan Kenobi, we saw it, with Reva's lightsaber. I think that was also kind of a weak spot, right? It was like the handle.
Why is the training not aware of this? Why are they all trained at the same stances to have the same flaw?
I don't know. I feel like it is a bit of a flaw to have all of these Jedi who went sour to just all of a sudden start from scratch in a new lightsaber form that they're not used to. I just thought that was kind of strange.
That too.
But I don't
question. Well, specifically with the Grand Inquisitor, he was a Sentinel, right? A Jedi Sentinel, like one of the Guardians.
Right.
So he actually already fought with a saber staff.
Right, I guess. Yeah, he's got the mini blades on the end of that long hilt or whatever. Yeah, that one's an interesting lightsaber. But that's like a double blade, a full double blade lightsaber. Like all these Inquisitor hilts, they're basically the length of one lightsaber hilt, right? Maybe it's slightly longer, and then they've got the two ends on it, so it's not a true double bladed lightsaber. Like
Right.
It's not a true saber staff. Yeah, so the form in itself is very different. I think that's why like you never see them two-handing their hilt, right? Like it's always a single hand, and I think that's why that's probably why they add the spinny function, right? Because with a saber staff you can twirl it with two hands, but because the actual hilt is smaller,
it spins
instead, to compensate for the fact that they can't twirl it. So maybe it was just a way of kind of mass producing the same kind of thing. The weird thing that I come across is that all these Inquisitors still do have slight variations of this design. So, really...
Oh, right. Yeah, they have, like, personalized
I'm still very confused about this. I feel like I've mentioned it before, but I feel like I would like kind of some explanation on these lightsabers. Where does the design come from? What's the reason behind having all of these guys use the same one, right?
Good question, because a lot of people had the same question with Kylo Ren's crossguard saber, and so then there's this huge backstory about how it's like an ancient lightsaber design, all that, et cetera, et cetera. And then this came out before that and just kind of swept under the rug.
Yeah, and also in regards to the Kylo Ren lightsaber, that was also something that came out of left field, and it was like, okay, like huge debate thing. Is it cool? Is it not? And then the first, I feel like at the time in 2015, I feel like the first canon reason why it was the way it was because the kyber crystal was cracked. He needed the vents on the side, right? As to not overload. That was at the time a reason that came out, and I think it's even in the visual dictionary. But then Star Wars Rebels came out and made a crossguard saber, and this is minor spoilers, by the way, for like season 2. But they made a design for the crossguard saber, and we've now seen it in the High Republic era as well. And and that was a true actual design, was to have the blades coming out the sides. So then it was this added element of, okay, well, if he's got the vents on the side for the overloading of the power in the hilt and all that stuff because of the cracked kyber crystal, then why does it look so similar? Like, is it maybe, designed that way incidentally, which mimics the actual true crossguard saber design, or what reason is it?
Circumstance?
Yeah,
it's just that
right, exactly.
He happened to come across that design while trying to figure out how to fix a different issue.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like, I think it gets to this point of confusion because all these different canon stories, they should be kept even more consistent with things than they already are. But
I think the problem you run into is likely is what happened is I put all this effort into making a reason to why that was the case, and then someone else was writing something, was like, oh, that's cool, I'm going to use that too, and then it just became a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of trampled over the original explanation.
Right. Yeah, it kind of overrides the last reason or whatever, right? So, because like at the time, I was like, oh, well, it's kind of interesting to know that, oh, that's why it looks the way it does. Like it's all like spitting fire and sparks and all that stuff, right? And it's got the vents on the side, like to make sure that the hilt doesn't blow up in his hand. It's like, okay, I can kind of buy that. Like, it makes sense. And then Star Wars Rebels came out with an episode where it introduced that, and now it's all over the place. Now it's in Jedi Survivor. Now it's in the High Republic, and now it's an actual design to have these blades on the side. And it's like, okay, like what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So I would like a lightsaber lore book. I want a lightsaber lore book, which literally just friggin' gets into all this stuff. You know what I mean?
And I'm also okay with it being like a Sith specific thing, because the Sith are always about, like trying to get an edge over their opponent. But to me, it's not really a Jedi looking saber. If you do like that, Jedi are supposed to be very traditional, right?
Yeah.
And like, stick to the original design, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, minor complaints there, but I would like to know more about these Inquisitor lightsabers. They all got the same stupid weakness. And let's not even get into the fact that they can fly with them. So, we'll just skip over that for now.
Oh, we'll get into that later, I'm sure.
Yeah. So the coming together Tarkin is pressed to leave for his safety, which I found was interesting in this episode. Someone mentions to Tarkin, hey, we should get you off here, for your own safety. And maybe this happens a few more times because he must get so sick of it that by the time when the Death Star rolls around and the rebels are attacking that, he's kind of fed up, right? He's like on the last straw. He's like, no, this is our moment of triumph. This is when we actually defeat the rebels. Like, I'm not leaving.
Moment of triumph.
Yeah, in our moment of triumph, like, you must be mad. But I don't know, like whatever he says. But yeah, it's one of those things. His stubbornness.
I think you overestimate their chances.
Right. Yeah. You must be an imbecile. No. His stubbornness is key to that moment.
This party's over.
Yeah, that's right. Shut down. His stubbornness is just key in that moment, and I just thought like it was very smart to add in this added section in this show where someone does tell that to him, and he goes without complaints. And this is a couple of years prior, but I'm assuming that a few events with that same situation lead him to this state of impatience when he's actually in the final battle. He's like, no, I'm not leaving this time. This time I'm going to watch them burn. And then he ends up dying because of it. So it was smart. It was smart to add that in.
It's kind of neat. It's almost like a little nod. Yeah.
Yeah. A little nod to A New Hope. The coming together of the rebel cells and the reveal of the system, how all the rebel cells work. Now they're kind of more operating in unison. This is a great way to launch into season 2. And I felt like this was a much needed step forward in the story because most of season 1, I think a lot of people, including myself, were a little confused just how the rebellion is working. And, Andor has shed more light on the subject, so to speak. But really, when this show came out, there wasn't a whole lot of canon reason as to, because let's not forget, only a year or two prior, Disney came and wiped the slate clean. So any expanded universe knowledge that we knew about how the rebellion formed was no longer relevant anymore. So this animated series comes in swinging, and I just thought, what? Like, what is going on? Like, I don't know. I just had no sense of the politics. I had no sense of like the system, how the rebellion was built. I didn't know who are these people, right? Like what's the significance of that? What, there's Jedi alive now that isn't Obi-Wan and Yoda? Like, what's going on here? So, times have changed.
A lot of inserts. Yeah. And of course, we also had all the old EU stories of how the rebellion got started. A lot of people, it was kind of left up in the air. And what's funny is I think the main reason why we thought the rebellion got started, which would have been through this is the version I know. There might be multiple. One I'm thinking of is through the Force Unleashed books.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and the end of that game, if anyone remembers, the rebellion logo is like revealed at the end of that the first story, right?
Yeah, if you sacrifice yourself and become a Jedi, then when Sam Witwer's character, what's his name? I'm blanking on it.
Galen Marrik.
Starkiller. That's right. When Starkiller, Galen Marrik dies at the end as a Jedi, then it's revealed. That's when they make the rebellion logo, and the rebellion is like starts to officially start to form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's supposed to be like in honor of him, which is kind of funny. And then we went the entire. I can talk about this now. I don't know if you wanted to wait. But we go through the entire Rebels series, and all of us are speculating all the time when Galen Marrick's going to show up, and he never did.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember all of us thinking, okay, there's got to be some sort
Where's
of...
the secret apprentice?
Yeah, where's the secret apprentice? When's he going to show up? Is he going to be an Inquisitor? I feel like that's something people are still talking about.
Star Wars escape pod has just been intercepted by the Separatist Alliance. If you are tuning in right now, don't go anywhere. Leave a review and make it a good one.
Hold on. You there?
Hey.
Hey, there you are. Okay, we had a drop for some reason.
Oh, are we live on the podcast? I hear it sound.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got you back on the backup the backup hologram here.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So I was just saying, Ahsoka and Galen Marrik, they both have a habit of using backhanded lightsaber stances. Do you feel like maybe there were some intentional similarities there, like when Anakin took on his apprentice compared to the old EU? Like, do you feel like
that?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that one?
That's funny because I didn't actually take it even in the comparison that they're both Anakin's apprentices.
Right.
So it's possible that there was just there might have been some influence there. Because I mean, if Dave thought that was cool, why not reuse it?
Right.
Do we see any other Jedi other than those two use that stance?
I mean,
what about Quinlan Voss? Does Quinlan Voss do that? I feel like I may have seen that.
I mean, no, backhanded. No, maybe. Not full time though. Ventress uses backhanded sometimes, but that's it's really rare, right? Like it's not something that comes up a whole lot, and I feel like there was almost maybe it's something I would love to ask Dave is like, was there an intention to draw sort of a parallel line between the talents and the lightsaber form that each of these characters use, both in the canon and the EU, Galen Marrik and Ahsoka Tano. But yeah, I mean, I've always thought that was kind of very, very curious.
No, that's a really good point. I do wonder if that is the case. They also, at least if you count the second game, or dual wielding stances or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Two lightsabers backhanded. I mean, that's incredibly rare, right? So yeah.
Well, I think Ahsoka has one backhanded and one forehanded. She never does two backhanded.
That's true. Well, it really depends. I mean, there has been quite a few times where, so if you just Google like Ahsoka Tano on images, she will have pictures, where she is wielding both lightsabers in, backwards, backhanded, right?
Oh, really? I've actually never noticed that before.
Yeah, it's very. She does switch back and forth in the live action show. In The Mandalorian, she does use her lightsabers more in the front, and I think it's because the style of doing that in animation is so much easier than actually doing that in live action, right? So I think that's one of the small gripes that people may have when they watch the live action compared to the animated. I hope I didn't ruin it for anybody, but that's kind of the reality of it's a very impractical way of holding a sword, and it plays up very well in fiction, in the animated series and the video games and stuff like that, but when you transition to live action, it doesn't really work as well, and the choreography can be extremely clunky and sometimes just doesn't look very right because the joints in a human being are not as flexible as an animated character. So naturally, it's not going to work out the same way.
Yep, that does make sense. I mean,
Yeah.
your wrist isn't always capable of moving like that.
Exactly.
That being said, like because it's kind of based on knife fighting, right? If you've ever seen like military, like professional knife fighters, you often use it in a backward stance, right?
Right.
And the reason for that is when you have like a downward stabbing motion is like quite a bit stronger. You have more weight behind it. But when you block, you hold it the same as Ahsoka, where the blade kind of goes along, you kind of like the length of your arm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good
normally
point.
it's a dagger or something like a what do they call them? It's like a specific kind of knife. You don't normally do it with a sword.
Right. Yeah. Especially like in real life, like those lightsabers are, they're heavy. They got like LEDs in the blade, and the hilt has got batteries in it. And, if anyone's held a replica Hasbro series, it's probably heavier than their stunt sabers. But, you get a good idea for the weight of an actual blade on the end of that thing. And, it's kind of unclear at this point, especially with The Mandalorian. It kind of threw a curveball in there as to whether or not these things are heavy. But I always thought for a long time that, after the original trilogy, the concept of lightsabers being heavy kind of changed. And when they did the prequels, it was like just the hilt weighs something, but the actual blade has no weight to it. So,
yep.
I don't know.
There's a huge change between the original trilogy and the prequels.
Yeah, exactly. The most noticeable change for sure. Vader comes in swing at the end of this season. I mean, I know you've seen the whole show. I know it's pretty much, there's no guessing as to what he'll do for us since we already know what's going to happen. But when that happened, going back to the first time that you saw the series, if you can remember back that far, did you have any solid expectations when you saw that moment? The reveal of Vader, the reveal of Ahsoka. Is there anything that you were kind of expecting that you would want out of this story?
I'm trying to remember now the specific circumstances, because I did start season 2, so I'm trying to remember specifically the end of this season. What?
So the end
I thought Vader just showed up.
He does. Yeah. So on the Rebels side, we see the reveal of Ahsoka, and then on the Imperial side, because the Grand Inquisitor is dead, I believe it's Agent Kallus and Tarkin are there, and Vader comes out of his shuttle, and basically he's there to complete the job that the Inquisitor failed to do.
Okay, yeah, but it was just like a reveal.
Yeah, it was just a reveal.
We kind of get more action to the next season here.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where the cutoff was, because I kind of just watched straight into the next season.
Right. Yeah. What were your like hopes when you saw that, like, originally for the first time?
I don't know if I had a lot of hopes as much as fears, to be honest with you. Like, we just watched the Grand Inquisitor kind of get like tomfooleried a few times, and a little bit General Grievous. And at the time, especially because we didn't know what was going to happen. I know I was quite nervous that they're going to take Darth Vader, and he was going to turn into a bit of a bumbling fool as he's outmaneuvered every week by these, this rabble of rebels.
Yeah, I hear what you. Yeah, I know what you mean, and that's exactly why the Inquisitors were made in the first place, because they didn't want to make Vader this tomfoolery, as you said, Grievous character, right? So I mean, I was a little worried too when he showed up. I was like, okay, this is cool, but at the same time, I really hope that he actually comes in and starts killing some people, because otherwise it's just gonna look stupid, right? So
exactly, 100%.
For those who haven't seen the series, we're gonna talk more about this as we go further into season 2. Clearly Vader's gonna be a big subject of a lot of those episodes. But is there anything that you wanted to bring up before we rate these Pablos and Pudus?
Obviously, it's probably just worth doubling down that this last episode was actually like a really good episode overall. And season 1 definitely had some hit and misses. There's some kind of boring episodes you can kind of pass. How about you?
Yeah.
Someone's probably put together a list of episodes that are like, quote unquote, like mandatory to get the whole story. I feel like season 1 probably had a lot of filler.
Right.
And
you had the issue of never leaving Lothal and stuff, but as for like leading somewhere and having this like a solid finale, I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, so we'll start off with the first one that we did. So that's episode 13. That was that was Call to Action with Grand Moff Tarkin, the Spike, the message from Ezra. I would give that maybe one, I don't know, maybe one Pablo point. What about you?
Yeah, like this one was probably the least interesting, but you did get to see Kanan decide to actually, sacrifice himself or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, around there, yeah, kind of a 0.5 to 1, I would say.
Right. Cool. Rebel Resolve. This was the crew of the Ghost disguising Chopper as an Imperial courier droid, and Ezra's reveal of the truth to Vizago. What'd you feel? And the TIE Fighter, of course, the reveal that they, in fact, did not destroy that colorful painted TIE Fighter that Zeb and Ezra once took. What'd you think of this one?
Kind of the same, maybe a bit lower, actually.
Bendu?
I think it's kind of dragged on a little bit. Yeah, let's go with the Bendu on this, I think.
Yeah, Bendu for me too. And the final finale, the season 1 Fire Across the Galaxy, episode 15. I got to give this probably 2 Pablo points, I would say.
Yep. That's why I was aiming there, but just so we're not doing exactly the same, I'll say 2 1/3.
Yeah. Also throwing it out there was a pretty good joke made by Ezra when they were stealing the Inquisitor's tie. When Kanan's like, "We'll take the Inquisitor's tie," and then Ezra's like, "Well, we know he's not gonna need it." And then Kanan looks over and is like, "You worry me sometimes, kid." And then they just get in to fly away. I was like, that was so well played. I don't know. I really liked that. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, pretty tongue in cheek there.
Yeah,
Ezra, it's not the Jedi way.
But Ezra, as a Jedi, you can't say those things. Yeah, but it's true. He's not going to need it anymore.
Don't be so happy about it.
It's what he said there kind of reminds me of something that Anakin might say during the Clone Wars. I don't know. It felt very quippy to me, which I liked it. It was cool.
That's true. Yeah, I could definitely see a Attack of the Clones Anakin saying that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man.
Be more whiny.
Yeah,
right?
More whiny. Yeah.
So he's gonna need it.
Well, he's not gonna need it.
It's too much emotion. You gotta say it more dull, more wooden.
More wooden.
Slower, less intense.
Yeah. Slower, less intense. Yeah. I wonder if that was George's directorial instructions every time. Oh, man.
I'm thinking so. Whenever it was not an action scene, it was slower, less intense.
Yeah. I hate sand. It's coarse and rough, and it gets every. No. We want it. Yeah, no, a bit slower, Hayden. Just a bit slower and less intense. But, all right. Thanks, George. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Perfect.
We'll steal that ship. He's not gonna need it anymore.
Slower.
Well, he's not gonna need it. Now I just sound like that caricature version of him on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Beware of my power. Oh man.
Oh my god.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much for tuning in from far, far away. It's always great to chat Star Wars with you, and we're going to be steamrolling ahead. When you get back, we'll find time to hit up season 2 of Star Wars Rebels and kind of go strong into Ahsoka, and then we'll have a good couple weeks chatting about that show. I know a lot of people are looking forward to Ahsoka season 1, so actually, speaking of which. Today, a bit of news dropped saying one of the actors revealed that season 1 of Ahsoka overlaps with season 3 of The Mandalorian. So that's going to be very interesting. It gives us an idea for the timeline of when that show takes place.
like happening simultaneously in
Yeah.
different parts of the galaxy.
Exactly. Picking up where Ahsoka leaves Luke and Grogu on whatever planet that was, right? So, yeah, very cool stuff. So I'm looking forward to chatting about that with you and with anyone else who wants to join us on our crew. And yeah, all right. Thank you again,
Cool.
sir.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, and we'll see you out there. Keep flying.
All right. Big thank you to all our listeners. I mean, we really appreciate you. We really appreciate any rating that you can give us. If you can, slap down a 5 stars on Spotify or iTunes. That would be fantastic. If you can't, maybe let us know why. And, throw in a review there if you got time to do that. Join the giveaway. There should be a link in the description of this podcast episode, as well as the next couple leading up to the final reveal of who won that competition. Follow the socials in the description below, and we will see you in the next episode of Star Wars Escape Pod. May the Force be with you.